All right, fight fans, welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by 98.1 FM Mile High Sports Radio. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. We're going to be diving into this week's historic and landmark UFC 300 card. Now, we're going to be dedicating the next two segments of the program to this card simply because there are way too many matchups and fights for us to cover in simply one segment of the program. So for you guys out there, we are going to make sure that we hit across all these matchups. These next few moments are going to be dedicated to the main card. And then, like I say, next segment will be the remainder of the card. But without further ado, let us get into it here. We have a title fight in the main event going down between the sitting champion, Alex Pereira, taking on Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill. Jamahal Hill never lost this belt. Last summer, he relinquished the title after rupturing his Achilles in a non-fighting related injury. Alex goes on, wins the title at MSG, is now sitting as the reigning champion. Where I have concern, especially as we just covered that timeline, typically, or at least historically, Achilles injuries are roughly around a year's timeline for that recovery. I know you're going to start throwing out the examples of, oh, Aaron Rodgers or maybe a Kirk Cousins, something like that. I hear you, but we're talking apples and oranges in terms of the resources available to these athletes that they can put into their recovery protocol. Aaron Rodgers spent close to $1 million a month on his recovery between the top surgeons, the doctors, the PTs, the hyperbaric chambers, all the different modalities that he used in that process. That's probably more that he spent on the recovery of his Achilles from that surgery than Jamal's made in his entire fight career. It just is what it is. It's an apples and oranges situations in terms of the earnings threshold and what these respective athletes are able to do for themselves in the rehab and recovery department. That all being said, Jamal's explosiveness and his forward style, I think, might run into issues with the leg kicks from Alex Pereira. Alex is very skilled in the striking department, obviously being that he is the two-time or the two-division Glory Kickboxing champion. In just 11 total fights of MMA experience, he's a two-division UFC champion. Now, this fight is one that when we kicked off the year, I said that I would love to see this fight happen this year, and I still hold true to that. I think that Alex is able to get it done. I think that Jamahal Hill has otherworldly power, and he certainly has a puncher's chance. No getting around that, no denying that whatsoever. He does have the sauce when it comes to that. But when we're looking at routes to victory, I think that outside of the puncher's chance, I don't know what else Jamal does to get his hand raised. Maybe you guys can chime in and let me know where you think that Jamal has his best key to victory here. But I do think that in addition to just the styles and the X's and O's of the fight itself and the two men that are going to be in the cage on Saturday, Alex has an advantage in that Glover Teixeira is in his corner. Glover is who Jamal beat to win the title. However, that time spent in the cage gave Glover a massive amount of intel. Glover is then able to pass that information along to his pupil in Alex Pereira. And I do believe that there can be some opportunities that are opened up because of Glover's experience in there with Jamal. Obviously, if that left hook from Pereira touches, it is lights out for anybody. When we're looking at who I lean toward in this fight, it's certainly Poatan. However, Jamahal Hill does have the power to go on and say, nope, Kurtzy, you're wrong. I'm erasing every bit of analysis that you just gave. because that could very well be the case. I mean, when we're talking two of the hardest hitting guys on the roster, that's a propensity for the outcome. But the hardest hitting human on this planet, I believe, is Alex Pereira. So all of that being said, even though yes, I mentioned Jamal's experience of the 12-1 only having that one loss being the time that he was tested in the grappling department from Paul Craig. I don't think that Alex goes that route. And that's why I didn't go too deep into that, just simply because even with him training with Glover and him showing some wrinkles of grappling within his training, especially, you know what he was doing with Polyana Viana and all of that content. You know what he was doing. I just don't think that that's going to be a path that Poatan chooses. I think that he's going to go in there and he's going to try to knock Jamal out. And I think that there's a good chance that he does. In the co-main event, we have a unique situation for the UFC in that this is the first time that they have ever had a title fight contested between two Chinese fighters. You have the sitting champion in the women's strawweight division at Zhang Weili taking on Yan Xiaonan. Yan Xiaonan is going to be the longer, more lanky fighter in this matchup, but Zhang Weili is all around a tremendously gifted fighter. She's a gifted striker, she's a tremendous grappler, and she is so resilient. She is a fan favorite in her own respect, albeit she doesn't know the most in terms of English, but when she has presented herself in that light, it's gone over very well with the crowd. Especially, I think one of the very first times where she notably said something was when she told Joanna to shut up. And right then and there, I think those little moments like that, her with Francis Ngannou, those situations have made her such an endearing personality to the UFC fans. Either way, the company wins because they keep a champion in that territory. There's PIs and a lot of infrastructure going in place over in that part of the world. So, like I say, this is something that they benefit one way or the other by keeping a champion there. However, if you're asking my opinion, I think that it is absolutely the best for business and the best for the UFC if Zhang Weili wins the title on Saturday night. And I think that when we're looking at the two fighters, it's no disrespect to Yan Xiaonan, but I think that Zhang Weili is the all-around better fighter in this matchup. Moving to the feature fight of the night, and this is a fight, ladies and gentlemen, that could be a headliner on any given weekend. This is a take my money type of fight, type of matchup that is going down for the BMF title, which will be contested at the 155-pound limit between Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. Now, Justin Gaethje has been a human highlight reel ever since he got to the UFC. Bonus after bonus after bonus after bonus. He hits like a Mack truck. He has fists like bricks. And to finish this guy, you have got to do incredible amounts of damage to be able to put him into that position. Max Holloway is coming up from 145 pounds. Max Holloway said that if we're challenging for the BMF title, then weight doesn't really matter. I could go out there. If I'm trying to say that I'm the BMF, I should be able to go fight John Jones. I should be able to go fight Francis Ngannou. I should be able to go fight the who's who, doesn't matter what the weight limit is, if we're talking about who's the baddest MFer. And that's part of why we love Max. But the danger of the fight that Max got himself into, this could be a heartbreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Max Holloway has been a title holder in the featherweight division for he was the title holder there for a long time, was a fan favorite, is still a fan favorite, I should say. He's in his early 30s. Max holds an incredible run of never getting dropped, never getting knocked down, never getting finished by strikes that way. However, he has worn the most damage in the whole UFC throughout his time in terms of absorbed strikes landed. You can't just eat shots from Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje hits too damn hard for you to sit there in the pocket and just trade with the man. And I'm not even talking just the boxing, the way that Justin Gaethje can rip the leg kicks. Max Holloway has a boxing based style. Justin goes and chops away at those legs early on. I think that it just continues to limit the effectiveness of Max. The last time that we saw Max take the jump up to 155 pounds was when he attempted to challenge for the interim title while he was still champ at 145 pounds. And that was when he took on Dustin Poirier. That fight obviously didn't go Max's way. And in that matchup, you could see the size difference. You could see that Dustin was just the much larger human in terms of his frame. And that's where in that fight we said, okay, well, what the first time that they fought, Dustin was way too small. You know, Dustin is a featherweight in general. I don't think anybody disagrees that featherweight was basically death for Dustin Poirier, and that 155 pounds is the true weight class for him. But we haven't seen Max for a little while now, since his last fight with Zombie, and in all of the pictures that we've seen of Max, it's hilarious the way that MMA social media has kind of ran with it. They're calling him Maximus Holloway just because he is yoked right now. He's certainly put on some muscle mass to be able to go in there at 155 pounds and take on this challenge. I think that if he is able to get past Justin Gaethje in this fight, do we see new life for Max Holloway at 155 pounds? Do we see Max Holloway try to make a run now, being that he still has, by age, time on the clock? He's had a lot of tough fights, had a lot of wars through the years, so that may not be the same path that some other guys have in terms of what damage is left to be taken when they're in their early 30s. But you can't not love Max Holloway. You can't not love Justin Gaethje. And that is why this fight is one that you certainly cannot miss. Again, there could be some heartbreaking elements that are on the line, but the thrill and the agony is just a part of the game, ladies and gentlemen. There is going to be someone who gets their hand raised. There is going to be somebody who walks out of that cage just completely shattered and broken. That's what it is. That's competition, plain and simple. Who do you guys think comes away with this? I think that based off of some of the things on the table that we spoke to here, just think that Justin Gaethje hits way too hard. He's too violent, and I would venture to say that the Elevation Fight Team product, the man who trains here in Denver, Colorado, gets his hand raised. Justin Gaethje. Following that, we have another matchup in the lightweight division going down between Charles do Bronx Oliveira, the former UFC lightweight champion, taking on the surging prospect and title contender hopeful, number 4 ranked Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan has already fought the champion in Islam Makhachev earlier in his UFC run. Obviously didn't go his way, but he's trying to make a statement in this fight with Charles Oliveira to say, hey, I'm next. We just talked about Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier seems to be the guy who is in the front of the line right now to fight Islam in June. Whether or not that happens or not, we'll see. Recency bias is certainly a thing. If Arman Tsarukyan is able to go in there and get Charles out of there right away and is healthy for June, there might be a chance that he leapfrogs and puts himself in that position for the rematch. Might not happen just because of Dustin's profile, but Arman is doing everything that he can right now to say that, hey, I'm next. Like I am that guy who has been telling you that I'm going to be there. And now I'm knocking on the door to say I'm here. The way that he dismantled Beneil Dariush, a tried and true veteran, to put himself into the top 5 in under a minute, this kid is the real deal. He is fast, he is explosive, and he is powerful. Charles Oliveira has had issues with guys in the past who come out and bring the heat right away. He got hurt against Michael Chandler. He got hurt against Gaethje. He got hurt against Dustin Poirier. He got hurt in these fights, and then he was able to weather the storm, rally, and then ultimately seal the victory. I don't know how many times he's going to be able to weather that storm or a potential sprint in a burst from someone like Arman Sarukian, who is as hungry as he is right now. But should Charles get his hand raised, that puts us in a crazy predicament if Charles gets his hand raised, Justin Gaethje gets his hand raised, and then you have Dustin Poirier who is sitting out there, and it's still this three-headed monster of who gets the next title shot. Because Charles was supposed to get it last fall, gets cut right above the eyebrow right before he's supposed to leave to Saudi Arabia, or excuse me, over to Fight Island, to Abu Dhabi. Volk fills in. Charles then is put in the position where he has to fight against Arman in a title eliminator situation or a contender, whatever you want to call it. Charles is a sitting number one contender. You have Charles who beat Dustin Poirier, who beat Justin Gaethje, but he could be on the outside looking in to a title shot. And on the flip side, then you also have Justin Gaethje, who, if he goes out there and beats Max Holloway, well, you could say he beat a featherweight. He beat a featherweight in this BMF matchup. But the guy who's getting the title shot potentially next month in Dustin Poirier, Justin just knocked him out a couple of months ago. So it's a bit of a cluster up at the top should all of those guys get their hand raised after Saturday night. Might be some crafty matchmaking in the mix, might all fall into place just based off of timing and where everybody is able to then be active once again, but we shall see. And then pulling the curtain, opening the main card, we have our boy, friend of the program, Cody Brundage, who is going to be taking on Bo Nickel. Let's be for real here. The odds makers in this one, I think that they have absurdly disrespected Cody. Yes, Bo Nickel is a tremendous talent. Yes, he is a blue chip type of prospect who has all of the background that everybody has just sunken their teeth into, being the storied wrestler from Penn State to coming into his MMA career and dismantling everybody up to this point. Yeah, the kid has a lot of hype, and it's not for no reason, but he's also never fought a veteran of Cody's status. He's never fought somebody who has the experience that Cody does. And I think that there's a chance that Cody finds the chin, and Bo Nickel, we don't know what Bo does when he gets hit. That's the thing. We don't know who Bo is once he's been touched up and once he is no longer the hammer. Who is Bo Nickel when he has to work off of the back foot? Who is Bo Nickel when he's faced a little bit of adversity? That is something that we do not know. And I think that Cody Brundage is going to go out there and try to make Bo Nickel find a different part of himself that he hasn't had to experience before. And despite what the odds makers say, I'm riding with my boy. I'm riding with my boy. It's going to be a all feelings for sure type of pick, but I do also believe that there are actual routes to victory from a strategical standpoint. Again, like I say, go out there and put the heat onto Bo right away. Strike with him and make him feel uncomfortable. The worst thing for anybody out there in a competitive arena is to get into a contest that is harder than you thought that it was going to be. I think that Cody needs to go out there immediately and announce his presence with authority to Bo. And then Bo's going to have to figure out within himself, okay, I've got a vet here. I can't just steamroll this kid. What do I have in the tank when that initial onslaught didn't work? And that's why we fight the fight. Again, that one is going to be something that it will be a massive boost to any single line or any parlay that you have. But I know that a lot of you are going to be out there saying that, oh, well, no, there's a reason why that there's that much of a line or why he's that big of a favorite, so on and so forth. Go ahead, throw your money out there. That's your choice. But me personally, like I say, I do believe that there are routes to victory, and I think that Cody Brundage will be able to get it done against Bo Nickel come Saturday night. Stick around after the break, folks. We're going to be talking the rest of the card. I'm Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Tune in to the MMA Plug on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio.